Hello and welcome to lesson 1 from the advanced book. My name is Christopher. Now, I don't know if this is the first time that we've met or if you've done the other two books in this series, okay? So if it's the first time that we've met, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for trusting me to help you and for your confidence in what we can do together, okay? You and I right now are a team, and together we are going to improve your English. So let's get started now. Verbs. I will go over the verbs. I encourage you to look them up yourself, okay? So my explanations will be a little vague, a little simple. So you need to look a little deeper, okay? Verbs. To knock, knocked. And of course, there are other tenses. So knock, knocked. To forbid, forbade, forbidden. To broadcast, broadcasted. To consider, considered. To check in, checked in. To assume, assumed. To check, checked. To insist, insisted. And to glance, glanced. Simple explanations are as follows. To knock. You can knock on a door. You can knock heads with someone, accidentally, of course, right? So you knock heads. You can knock personalities. So you can have a conflict with someone. That is an interesting situation, isn't it? To forbid. This is to not allow. You forbid somebody from doing something. You don't permit them. You don't say yes, you say no. In fact, to forbid is a higher degree of no. You can say no, or if you forbid somebody, it's done normally with much more emotion. It's a more serious level, okay? To broadcast. To broadcast is to announce. So on the radio, you can broadcast a message. You can go into your street and broadcast with your mouth to all of your neighborhood, right? To consider. To consider is to think about something. So I want you to consider improving your English with me. Study your English, grow your English, and practice your English. To check in. To check in is to verify. So when you arrive somewhere, you should always check in with your loved ones. You should let them know that you arrived safely, I hope. You can also check in with the airlines. You can check in with the hotel. So it's telling someone that you are there, you are present. To assume. To assume is to think something, right? You assume something. So let me tell you an expression. My goal is to not teach you bad words, okay? I'm not going to do that. However, you need to know this expression. So if you look at the first 3 letters of this word here, then you look at the U, it almost sounds like Y-O-U, right? You, and then you have me, M-E. So there are actually 3 words here. So the expression is, if you assume and you don't find out, then you could make an ass out of you and me. So be careful when you assume, because you don't want to make people look stupid, okay? Never assume, right? Good. So assume is when you think something is ready or done or possible, but you're not sure. And that is the problem. To check. To check is to verify. So don't assume, you need to check. Okay? So to check is to verify. To check is also to place a check next to something. To insist. One other thing. When you hit somebody, like in hockey, with your shoulder, you check them. Okay? To insist, this is to be persistent. To say you have to, you need to. So you need to study your English. I insist. So I am trying to tell you, you should, okay? I'm not forbidding you. I'm trying to encourage you, okay? And to glance. To glance is to look quickly, not to stare. To stare is to look for a long period of time. To glance is to look really fast. So if I said, look at that person behind you. Look at them really quickly. And you look, you glance, okay? Good. Make sure you look up all of those words yourself. Vocabulary. Aghast. Aghast. Aghast, okay? Aghast, demand, noticeable, beneath, overbearing, shortcut, benefit, disruptive, behavior, nonsense, surcharges, feedback, outrageous, judgment, calm, crew, reasonable, honeymoon, reward, checklist, doorman, journey, and standard. Got it? Remember, this is an advanced level. Now, the words are a little easier in the beginning. They get a little more complicated later, okay? I'm not going to speak too much faster throughout this book. I'm trying to keep a good velocity because you are advanced, right? Aghast is to be shocked or surprised. Like, really? Are you serious? So, shocked or surprised. Demand. This is the amount of push being put on you, the number of people that want something. So you have a great demand. A lot of people want something from you. Obviously, this is a verb too, but in this case here, it's talking about the number of people who want something. Noticeable. Noticeable is something that calls your attention, a detail, okay? Beneath. Beneath is under. So beneath the table. My legs are beneath my table. Overbearing. Overbearing is to put a lot of pressure on someone, to try to tell someone they need to do something, but to do it in a forceful way. So in high school, I had an overbearing coach. And because of him, we won multiple state championships. That is actually a sentence in this lesson. Shortcut. A shortcut is a faster way to do something. So if you don't want to take the long way, you take a shortcut to cut down on time and to make the trip a little faster and hopefully easier. Now, sometimes a shortcut can end up being dangerous or actually be a longer way. You have to be very careful. Benefit. A benefit is something that you receive, like a reward. So in your job, you might have different kinds of benefits. A benefit could be health insurance, life insurance, maybe retirement, for example, holiday time, vacation time. These are types of benefits. So a benefit is something that's good for you. It helps you. Disruptive. Disruptive is something that causes a disruption. So something that breaks the silence, like an ambulance, for example, okay? It's disruptive. It makes you lose your place. It annoys you. Behavior. This is the way that something or someone acts. So if you put these together, you could have disruptive behavior. So a person may have disruptive behavior in a class, for example, or in the office. In the office, maybe they'll get fired. In the classroom, maybe they'll get detention, okay? So behavior is the action or reaction of someone or something. You have behaviors from chemicals, for example. Nonsense. Nonsense is something that doesn't make sense. So when you put non, it changes the word sense. Nonsense doesn't make sense. It's kind of stupid, okay? Surcharges. These are additional charges. We see a lot of surcharges on our airline tickets or when you check into a hotel, for example. One silly surcharge might be that you get charged for parking in your hotel even though you don't have a car. That is a surcharge that you might want to try to argue, but you might lose, right? Feedback. Feedback is when people give you positive or negative information to help you improve. You receive feedback from your boss, your coworkers, maybe I'll give you some, okay? But it's to help you grow and to improve your English. Outrageous. Outrageous is something that calls your attention. It's incredible. It's not normal. So someone can look outrageous. Someone can talk in a way that is outrageous, right? It calls everyone's attention. You can look at your electrical bill and think it's outrageous, or maybe your gasoline when you fill your tank. Judgment. Judgment is something that's placed upon someone, normally a judge. But all of us have the ability to place judgment on someone, and we also have to remember that we ourselves are always being judged, right? Calm, when everything is peaceful. So right now, as I record this, it is literally raining really hard outside. Now, you could say that outside it's not calm, but the sound of the rain is calm. It's calming. It makes you relax, right? So calm means to be without movement, without emotion. Crew. Crew, these are the people that work as a team. So you can have athletic crew, for example, the people that do boats, rowboats, crew boats, right? I don't actually know what they're called, but the boats, like in the universities or in the Olympics. And then you also have a crew that works on an airplane or a construction site. Reasonable. Reasonable means fair, just. It's not too expensive, it's not too cheap. Your price is reasonable. What you offer is reasonable. It means fair. Honeymoon. Honeymoon is an event spent when people generally get married. However, we also use this to describe the first days or weeks in a new job. So if you begin a new job, it's kind of like a honeymoon. Everything's wonderful until the reality sets in and things start to get hard. Marriage is like that. The beginning is a honeymoon, and with time, you realize that you actually have to put a lot of effort into it, but it can be worth it, right? Reward. Reward is something you get. It's like a prize. When you do really well, you can get a reward. So, what kind of reward do you want or do you like? Maybe it's money. Maybe it's a good job, a pat on the back, for example. Maybe you prefer trophies or for your boss to put your name in lights in front of the whole office. We also saw this. People offered money for the capture or the life of someone else. Checklist. This is a list that you maintain to be able to verify that you are maintaining order. So, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. I have a checklist as I put together these lessons. So, I make sure that I'm able to organize everything. Checklists are really good to stay in control. Doorman. A doorman is a person who answers the door, and obviously women can do this job too. So, a doorman is responsible for the security of the building, who enters and who leaves. My apartment building has a doorman, and they are responsible for receiving packages and verifying who enters and who leaves. Journey. A journey is a trip. It can be normally a long trip. So we describe this as being a person who goes far away, or an event that took a long time. And standard. Oh, for example, maybe you learning English has been a journey. Maybe you started 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and here you are today, but you are determined to learn English and to maintain your English. Good job. Standard. Standard is normal. So, what kind of standard do you live by? It also means rule. So, what kind of standard do you live by in your life? What kind of rules? Or, this is a standard option. It means a normal, a regular option. Great. Make sure that you look up all of those words yourself, okay? You have no idea how many more things these words mean. My glimpse into each word is just very shallow, okay? So, word use, let's go. Remember, I take all of the verbs and all of the vocabulary and I create these sentences so that you can see how they're used, okay? Let's go. Word use. Do you want me to knock on the door when I arrive? They knocked heads while boarding the plane. He had knocked over his drink by the time I got on the bus. So he had a drink and it fell. Okay? Next one. The flight attendant wants you to consider the benefit of sitting in the emergency exit row. Have you considered how much your journey will demand of your time? He had not considered the price when planning his honeymoon. Some places are very expensive. Can you please check for additional surcharges on my ticket? Sue checked twice before leaving her hotel room. She did not want to leave anything beneath the bed. John had checked with the doorman before visiting the Italian restaurant next door. Now you have to be careful about this because maybe the doorman is paid to send clients to the restaurant. So you be the judge. It is standard for the airline industry to forbid passengers from committing disruptive behavior, of course. The flight crew forbade us from opening the control door. If you try to do that, you'll be arrested. We were forbidden to smoke on planes years ago, but I remember seeing ashtrays on them when I was a child. This is completely true. I really remember that. I wanted to give some feedback about your service after I check in. When you checked in, did you forget to mention that you use reward miles to purchase your ticket? We have checked in and can now relax at the gate until our flight is called. But don't relax too much because you might miss your flight, right? I wanted to insist that we take the shortcut to the airport. The news wanted to broadcast the outrageous nonsense that we saw while visiting Napoli. The trash in the streets was noticeable and the smell overbearing. Now, today, Napoli is beautiful, but many years ago, they had a little problem with the trash, and so it was being dumped and accumulated on the highways and in the streets. You can look up online for yourself and see the images. They stood aghast when hearing that a plane crashed and could not help but assume that there were no survivors. My mother assumed that we had a good time on our honeymoon upon hearing that the weather was in the 80s. All right? I had assumed that you brought everything on the checklist, and that is the problem. Maybe we forgot something because I didn't check, right? I wanted to glance one more time at their poor judgment in clothing. Could you believe what they were wearing, right? Phil glanced over his shoulder to make sure he was not being followed. So he looked over his shoulder to make sure nobody was behind him. Great. Make sure you look at all of these sentences and you can dissect each one and make sure that you understand the flow, the construction, and the meaning. Okay? This is advanced. Things are a little deeper here, right? Describe this picture. So, this building is actually much higher now. It's next to my building. It's under construction. It is going to be gorgeous. So, where are you at with your English? Which floor are you currently on and how high do you want to build? What is the purpose of your knowledge? Make sure that you build a good foundation. That is a very important aspect of your growth. The more you want to grow, the stronger your foundation needs to be. This is completely true. So, the fact that you're here means that you probably have a pretty good foundation, but you have time still to improve it even more and to build higher, to be more successful in your English, okay? Choose the best word. And one more thing, if you have a chance to discuss these questions with someone, I encourage you to do it. Maybe you have a friend who speaks English and you can talk about it, okay? Choose the best word. So this is an exercise. It's going to be very common. You will see this throughout all of the lessons, okay? Choose the best word. Your options are check in, salty, surcharges, outrageous, doorman, calm, prejudiced, beneath, line, driver's license, reward, disruptive, honeymoon, considered, overbearing, noticeable, crew, aghast, demand, nonsense, journey, standards, and shortcut. So if there are any words that you don't remember, make sure that you look them up right now, okay? Read through all of these sentences and choose the right word for the right space. As you go along, a little tip, advice. You can cross out the word as you list it, as you write it down, okay? It's just a little tip. It'll make it easier, especially towards the end. If you find a better place for a word, just switch it, all right? You're not locked into that one spot. Maybe it works better in another place. And here is an exercise on prepositions. And you say, but teacher, I am an advanced speaker. That doesn't mean anything. I know Americans that don't know how to use prepositions correctly, okay? So always work on your prepositions and we will check them together. Here is another exercise, no regrets. So let me straighten myself up and I will read this to you, okay? I'm going to read it one time. I'm going to read it at a regular velocity, okay? So I wrote this and I used, if you pay attention, all of the words from the verbs in the vocabulary in this little story about my move to Brazil. So it shows you that it's very possible to combine all of these words into a little text, and I challenge you throughout these various lessons to do the same thing. Okay? Here we go. You ready? No regrets. I can't remember which airline we took, but I can remember how much emotion was involved in the trip. We talked about moving for years, but May and June was a roller coaster of excitement and wonder. We had put in a great deal of effort to prepare for this move, with our journey seen as a benefit for us and our family. I specifically remember our time at the hotel and the airport. Pulling around the corner in our full to the brim Jeep Grand Cherokee was a bit of a show. Who would have thought that a family could put their life into an SUV? It certainly helped that we had made some trips in the last several months with bags full of household treasures. But we still had a lot left to take, and I am sure the Jeep was glad to get out from beneath us. We did not get a reasonable amount of sleep before our flight, or at least not me. Every time I would glance over at my wife and kids, they were checked in with the Sandman. I knew 4 a.m. was late or early, depending on who you are. But after a long night of driving, I was happy to see the doorman of the hotel and to get acquainted with my temporary bed. One of the most demanding parts of the trip was about to begin. The thought of not being able to travel with Hannah had always been on our mind. We did not have a plan B, but kept pushing ahead and going with the flow. What we were asked to do, we did, and what we were asked to pay, we paid. The demands of the airlines were small, but many small things add up and certainly can get expensive. We had heard stories about the danger of long trips for pets, but Hannah was such an important part of our life that we thought it was a reasonable and rewarding thing to take her. I stood aghast when told that the shipping crate we bought was the wrong one. We were promised that it was correct as we demanded a lot from our salesperson, but the airlines forbid us from taking her and asked us to consider buying one of their containers. How could we say no? I wanted to broadcast to everyone that I thought it was foolish of them, but I did not want to cause any disruptive behavior and kept going with the flow. We were unable to take a single shortcut from the time we left our home to the time we arrived in Goiânia, Brazil. During our mad dash through the terminal to board on time, we did not knock anyone over, but we were certainly not calm. Our pace was rushed, but reasonable. Sitting in our seats on the plane was an emotional experience. We had considered what a trip like this would mean and always looked at our checklist to make sure we did not forget anything. I am not sure what the flight crew thought of us or anyone sitting around us, but we had no regrets and were ready to begin our honeymoon with Brazil. This is absolutely 100% true, and I used the words from above. You can do the same thing. It's called creative writing. So, read it again yourself. Read these various questions and answer them, please. Okay? You have different questions to answer, and here is another picture. So, what does this one say? Describe this picture, and you have the chance yourself now to write your own text. Okay? So, this is my son, and this is my daughter, and this is what they looked like in the story above. And we had a dog. So imagine. Okay? Let's read this together. Give praise where praise is due. These are the two doctors that delivered my children. It was a way to honor them by asking them to take these pictures. If we are ever in the Charlotte, North Carolina, area again, I can find them. I will need to update this picture with new pictures. There are many talented people in the world, and I specifically appreciate each one. I was able to take a picture as a teen with my first grade teacher, Mrs. Pelletier. This is true. In Caribou, Maine. There is no job that is more important than another. Remember that. What do you think of these pictures? So, I read the text. I was very calm when I read it because this is kind of cool for me. What do you think of this? What do you think of these pictures, this situation? Do you have any experiences like this? Have you tried to find somebody from your past, somebody you grew up with, somebody who taught you when you were very little? So write a nice text. Let these pictures inspire you, okay? And we have another assignment. What did I tell you? I warned you. I warned you. So use your creativity by writing a short story using all of the following words, okay? The words are glanced, checklist, aghast, check-in, nonsense, judgment, doorman, broadcast, journey, beneath, overbearing, surcharges, standard, outrageous, demand, assumed, and reward. So write a title and then use these words in any order you want, in any verb tense you want, and let your creativity juices flow, okay? You signed up for this, just remember. Which airline company do you prefer to fly with and why? And here is another exercise. Match the words to the correct definition. So your words are to assume, journey, reasonable, overbearing, demand, feedback, surcharges, calm, and benefit. Write down one of these words for each of these lines, okay? So this is not an opposite. Be careful. Some of these will be opposite. Some of these will be the same meaning. In this case here, it's the correct definition, okay? And I think that is it. So finish all of this, and then when you're done, I will already be there waiting for you. But let's move to lesson 1, advanced answers, okay? I will see you there. Have fun. Best wishes, and thank you.